Welcome to the Creator Show. My name is David, and I've been working with creators worldwide to help them monetize their knowledge. Today on the show, we have Per joining us. Per, you know, Per has been a teacher, teaching partner, mentor, supervisor at Oxford Mindfulness Center for the last 3 years. In addition to that, Per is also a creator and is actively involved in the IT and e-learning sector at Oxford Mindfulness. Um, Per also has over 20 plus years of experience in the e-learning sector, and he teaches mindfulness at Oxford Mindfulness Center, which is OMF. Welcome, Per.
Thank you. Thank you, David. It's lovely to be here.
Wonderful. So, you've been teaching mindfulness at Oxford Mindfulness Center. Can you maybe give us a brief about what that entails?
Yeah, so we at the OMF, we are closely related to the psychiatry department at the Oxford University, and they are dealing with the master's programs and PhD students and things for mindfulness related, and specifically in the clinical setting around depression work and things like that. And then there is another arm that is about the public, about teacher training for the general public, and also teaching to the general public just awareness of mindfulness and things. And we do that worldwide with some 50 odd teachers we have associated with the center. And also we have teaching partners around the world. And so we are not the academic route. We are the kind of the brother or the sister of the academic route, if you so wish. Yeah.
Got it. Awesome. Again, from what I've seen, or at least what I've heard about or read about you, is you've donned many hats in your career so far. But speaking of your current role at OMF, what made you choose the path of being an educator?
Uh, yeah, this is it. I've always had a curious mind and always had a kind of a helpful mind of doing things. But both my parents were teachers, and so I kind of grew up in a very supportive and inquisitive environment where you're allowed to ask questions and explaining things. My older sister is very academic, and so she ended up being a researcher for medicine. Whereas I'm totally hopeless academically. So I'm totally practical. So whereas my sister has no practical ability whatsoever, um, I can do pretty much anything with my hands, and it's absolutely wonderful. So yeah, we got a bit lopsided there. So I quite like to practically help people, and so when got into electronics and computing and things, I very quickly gravitated towards teaching. And so I spent some years teaching computing, repairing computing, how the computers work and things. And then I ended up in working for e-learning companies that are actually establishing electronic ways of teaching and early days of e-learning. So yeah.
Right. So the theory part was not as interesting, but the practical part, basically, uh, you know, given what you just said, I think technology is what kind of got you into doing what you do currently too, right? I mean, that's something that kind of helped push you into that sector of being able to be an educator.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Awesome.
definitely did. Yeah.
But thinking back at it, when what you just said, I just started thinking like, you know what? I come from an education, educated or education, background for a family as well, but never really, went down that path. For me, it was always about, again, I think very similar to being able to do something with your hands, something more practical. I didn't go down that road, but yeah, I totally understand that when you have something like this, with your background, you kind of want to go into what interests you the most, right? So, well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Apart from being an educator, I did mention you were also a creator. So, as a creator, what led you to create, your first course, and what was that experience like for you?
Well, it came about actually when I was working in the e-learning environment fully. Then of course we were helping people creating courses and we were doing things. And so I have a long understanding and practical experience of creating courses, different kinds of course content. But the when I then started, I found mindfulness some 15 years ago, and I realized that this is something amazing, and it changed my life completely. And yeah, and I thought I got to teach the world. I just have to share this somehow.
mm,
And if you're sitting in a little town in England, you're limited to the people you can reach. You know,
right.
you can only get 16 people in the room, and yeah. So, and I was working still in IT at the same time, so I could only teach in the evenings and weekends and things. So I thought, well, I know e-learning. I got to explore this. So I, I've created some courses, and I created my very first course, and is I had this idea that I can teach it in a different way. And so I did. I created this course, and it's got over 60,000 people using it at the
Wow.
moment. So, yeah, so it is amazing.
Mm,
And of course, I mean, now it's old, and since I joined in with FreshLearn, I have the opportunity to update it and make it much more relevant and yeah, make more appealing and make it more interactive and things. So I'm gonna do a version 2 of it now,
no,
and yeah,
that's amazing because you mentioned 60,000 the people take your course, which is I think it's huge. I mean, if when you look at it, like you said, when you come from a smaller town in England, the outreach is obviously very limited if you don't have
yeah,
that opportunity to kind of take it forward online, right? So I think if you remember during one of our earlier conversations, we were talking about what the pandemic has done actually, in terms of the work from home, e-learning, all of that,
yeah,
right? So I feel, in a
yeah,
way, that has also kind of helped people to look beyond the normal, right? In terms of being able to 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 accept, I think, e-learning and online learning as part of their everyday to do kind of a list, right?
yeah, yeah. And I think you're right there. The pandemic was a catalyst
Right.
for people realizing that actually, we got to be able to do things virtually as well. So it really catapulted for the OMF. It meant we had to stop. Everything we did was in person,
Right.
and so we had to stop. And overnight, suddenly, we had to shift. We had some 120 students or whatever we had, and we had to take them online. And we had teachers that were not adept to using Zoom, what we were using at the time.
Right.
So we ended up having to take instructor-led training and
Right.
deliver it online, and then have accompanying material that you would show in the class and give out things
Right.
that has to be delivered online. So we had to quickly find some kind of software system that would support us, and the system was chosen for the better or for worse. And it's a very old style system. It's very rigid. It's very big. So it can do what it can do, and it has supported us. Yeah, it has, but that's all it can do for us.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to create dynamic e-learning content in it. So that's why we started last year looking at actually a lot of our training that we do now. We don't actually have to have a live instructor in front of the students. A lot of it can be delivered as a self-paced modules,
Right.
and so they can do preparation work, self-paced modules, and then we can have an instructor-led module, and then we have more self-paced, and then instructor-led, um, and then writing written assignments and things. So it's a truly mixed mode situation, and that's going to utilize the time better for the instructors.
Right.
So that's we see it as a great win for us in taking this forward.
So when you started, when the pandemic hit, you said you had about 120 students that were currently taking that course, and they had to be shifted from in class to online,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Has that number increased significantly now? Now that now that it's
yeah.
online?
Oh, it's amazing. We're teaching thousands and thousands every year,
Wow.
whereas
Right.
before we were teaching in maybe in the hundred.
Right.
It means that we've been able to increase teacher training from just having one cohort a year. We're
Right.
now can do 4 cohorts a year.
Right.
And whereas before, everybody had to travel to Oxford,
Correct.
England.
Correct.
You know,
Uh,
if you
uh,
lived in Norway, you have to
right.
travel. That's it.
And
You know,
it's not somewhere in the heart of the city, right? You have to you have to travel out there, right? Out to literally nowhere.
yeah.
Right. So
And of course, it limits who can attend.
correct. Correct.
It's your geographical limit, and who can afford it. I mean, if you live in the other part of England, and every other week you're gonna for because it is 29 days,
Correct.
and so 29 days you're gonna spend in Oxford. So you have to travel the night before. You have to do the hotel, and you have to go there. It
Right.
becomes very expensive.
Right.
Just the logistics becomes very
Right.
expensive.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, there is the cost incurred for the learning, but there's also cost, that is incurred for everything else around it as well, right? So it
yeah,
wouldn't be just a 29-day journey. It would actually be like a 35-day journey, right? So
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
absolutely.
So
So
yeah,
so
and sorry, and then of course there was many students, many people around the world. They also wanted to take part in the Oxford kind of movement and what we are teaching. And we're teaching one of the richest mindfulness courses that you can get now. It's a combination of many courses, and of course it has the foundation in a program that is research based,
right,
and so it's totally it's not something hairy fairy that somebody's dreamt up. This
right,
is it's totally validated, and so people quite like this model that it's not something snake oil that somebody's dreamt up in the back
right,
bedroom somewhere. You
right,
know, that this is solid. And so that means you can take it into institutions, you can take it into universities, you can take it to schools, you can take it wherever because it is trusted.
right,
And um, and this means that, of course, many people around the world wanted it and they couldn't before, but now they can. And that's been the revolution for us in the last 3 years is that we're reaching teaching partners and training partners and all around the world. And it's amazing. Yeah, absolutely, truly amazing how this environment of e-learning has enabled all this.
right. The outreach has become limitless, I guess, at this point, which is wonderful for the e-learning sector, right? Because you get to reach more people, and the goal is that, right, to be able to educate as many as you can, and if it can be done, if you can sit, in your location, educate people all over the world, I think half the work is done right there.
Yeah.
Right, right. So now we've seen about, or I've heard about, how great e-learning is, and what it does, right, in terms of the great things it can actually bring in. But what are some of the biggest challenges, that you've seen as an educator and as a creator? I'm sure the challenges would be different, right? But let's start with as an educator. What would be the biggest challenge you've seen?
Well, we certainly, for anyone that wants to educate and that wants to tell the world about what they can do, is it's now you can make your material available.
Right,
And so as an educator, you actually go into the creator. It can't be a separate
correct,
model as I see it, because if you're a creator, but back in the days, we used to have programmers sitting and creating stuff.
right,
And we used to have a creator person kind of drafting little PowerPoints and things that, can you do this? Can you do this for us? And can you do that? It's clunky. And the person that was creating it was removed from the creator.
right,
And this was the problem always in content creation. And the creator, the person that was doing the learning, he didn't have the technical skills
right,
to content creation. So the educated, but now with the invention, the transformation in the industry that that all the old e-learning dinosaurs are still there, of course, but now you've got the newer, younger companies coming up. They're actually more flexible. That allows actually the person that knows the learning can now transcend into creating useful material. And
right,
that I think is the key because the challenge was to overcome actually creating relevant material. And it was only the kind of the educator that had the understanding of how do people learn, what makes people interested, and how can I best convey this material, versus the person that is the expert subject or the programmer or something. They know the stuff, but they don't know how to get it out there.
Correct.
So, and this I think is being bridged beautifully in the smaller software companies and the new technology that's embraced by the smaller companies.
Right. So you would say, there are educate back then there were educators and there were creators, right? Now that's kind of fused into one, where
Yeah,
people are not no longer just tied down to just doing one thing, but they kind of opened up their creativity box to kind of see how they can fuse both together, and why not
yeah,
don both hats? Why not be a creator? Because as an educator, I know what I'm going to be educating, but how do I create that now as a creator? And with some of the tools available online, I think they can now start experimenting and trying to set up their
yeah,
own courses and curriculum and how they want to go about it, basically the entire package.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's so key. Um, Now, whilst I'm a very practical person, I'm not very good with imagery and art and stuff. I appreciate art. I appreciate photography. I like doing photography and things. But it, when it comes to putting together your home to
Right,
create a beautiful room, how do you create a beautiful bedroom with colors and furnishing and things like this?
right,
I'm absolutely useful. I can put a shelf on the wall. Yeah, I can do that. I can make a bed. I can
right,
do things.
right,
But actually making it feel wonderful, you need a special mindset for that.
right,
And this is where I think is beautiful because that the people with that special mindset,
mm,
they can see what sells. They can see the what we need to how it should look on the screen.
right,
And now I think we can come together and we can work together in a completely different way.
mm.
And we can create beautiful content that is relevant and functional, but also aesthetically pleasing and captures your mind and imagination.
So, okay, now that we know, with regards to an educator and a creator, what about the research that's involved in this? So let's say your approach towards the process of learning and staying up to date, on current industry trends and best practices. How do you go about doing this?
Yeah, I think this is where you need to belong to network groups
Right,
in on social media or because it's so much available, new trends and new things coming online every week is new stuff out there,
right,
and so it's so much information. So being part of different groups and teams is really helpful for me and getting fed. So I'm subscribing to news, industry news and things. So I'm getting updates every week about what's going on, the latest trends in, and of course, remember, because I'm in mindfulness, I need to keep an eye on what's happening in the medical industry, what's happening in the neuroscience field, in psychology. So I have a and there's no way I can sit and read publications and things because I don't have that many hours in a day.
right,
So I need summaries, I need information flows, and so subscribing to different sources
right,
then enables me to keep up to date with what's happening. And another big thing I'm looking at for the Oxford Mindfulness Foundation is also I look after IT a little bit as well for them. So we're looking at cybersecurity and cybersecurity certification and things. I mean, that's a job in its own right.
right,
So how can you do that as well as being a creator, an educator? And,
right,
it's like, well, you have to get information feed in a timely manner. And this is something to think about when you're creating content. That
right.
actually making timely information available in the right amount for the right audience. That's key.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I do understand. Again, nobody has all the time in the world to sit and research everything, right? We have to kind of prioritize on what we're kind of looking at, and at
Yeah.
least, if not anything, at least glance through some of the stuff that's coming in. I think in a timely manner, right? We have to kind of make sure we are updated. Um, so, as an educator, well, I guess I'll have to fuse both the words now, educator and creator in this case, right? So, as an edu creator, I would say, how would you attribute your success?
So sorry. So how would you?
How would you attribute success as an educator?
How as a success in an educator? Um, well, back in the days, it used to be you handed out a feedback form in the classroom, and
Right.
you locked the door, and you wouldn't let the students out until they had written feedback. You know,
Right, right,
so then you knew you had feedback. But it's of course it's very personal and it's not very objective. So but no, what you can see now is actually the trending you get, how many students you get, how relevant your material is, the
right,
ratings you get on the material and things, the feedback you get, and also, of course, are people coming back?
right,
For us at the OMF, it's a big indicator is people coming back to our courses, they do more courses. Uh, and mindfulness is a difficult thing to learn, to
right.
deeply learn, and you might have to take the course a few times
Yeah,
because every time you learn something more and learn something more. So, eh, and what we see is that people are staying connected. They are subscribing to newsletters. They are coming to our we run free um, practice sessions every day, twice a day, lunchtime and evening in UK time. And so we see a lot of people, hundreds of people coming to them as well.
mm,
And it's lovely. Lovely to see the community is expanding and people staying connected and people are really enjoying it.
that's wonderful. So, okay, what about future creators or future educators? Uh, what advice do you have for them?
Yeah, this the best thing to say is that whatever you choose to teach,
Mhm.
whatever skill you have, whatever it is you want to share what you're passionate about. Share what you care about. Because when we're teaching mindfulness, we're teaching from within. We're teaching uh, from an embodied position. So we are sharing of what our experience is in the moment and guiding the students. And when we are teaching, we are not a teacher-student relationship.
Right,
We are we are learning together because your experience is your experience, and you're an expert on your experience. I'm an expert on my experience. And so I need to learn from you. So we learn together.
right,
And this is the approach. So if you do the traditional way of lecturing, you shall do this, like that,
right.
you soon get people to switch off. Be passionate about it, share it with your people, and do it with your people. That's how you do it. I recently went on a baking course with this lovely lady, and it's she was there baking with us.
Yeah,
It was one of the best training courses I've ever done, and it was lovely. And he's like, "Come on, let's do it." And she was working away, and we were working away, and you could see what's happening, and it was really, really wonderful. It was taught in a way that was not like do this, do that, but hey, let's do it. Let's see, feel how it is,
right.
and that I think is key to success.
So basically, when you as a young creator, who's getting into this industry, you would say, while you're here to create those courses, you need to also collaborate with your users, right? So that kind of helps them get more intuitive and to be able to get into the whole, or at least that's something that would actually pique their interest and for them to you know enjoy what they're basically
Yeah,
coming to learn, right? So that's pretty much it.
yeah,
Right. And in terms of e-learning, because you've been a veteran in this industry for e-learning over 20 plus years, what does the future look like, for universities who dabble in blended learning, online learnings?
yeah. It's definitely here to stay. I
Mm,
can say that it's shown us that we have a tremendous reach. You can reach an
right,
audience that we didn't have before. But what we need to do now is to make sure that we don't go overboard with it, and that you can't just take a course that used to be teacher led
right,
and say, all right, I'm going to record that teacher, and then I'm going to just give the recording away. It doesn't work like that. So
right,
you're still going to lose your students. So what
right,
you have to do is that storytelling. If you're going to do e-learning, it's
right.
storytelling. Telling a story. Once upon a time, in a country far, far away, there was a
Yeah,
prince and he lived in a castle. And,
yeah,
and that's how it's got to go.
right,
Because you're going to capture the imagination of the audience. You're going to make it relevant to them. and
Right.
you're going to put it in their context. Then you are learning. And it can be a little thing or there can be a long program. It doesn't matter what it is, it has to be relevant. Otherwise, they switch off.
Right.
And I think it's going to be the people that are going to create good content. They make relevant content. I remember I was in somewhere in a remote area of Brazil, and with a 4x4
Right.
thing, and the belt had jumped off. I was stuck. Well,
Right.
how do I repair this in the middle of where nowhere?
Right.
So I had internet connection,
Right.
and I managed to log into YouTube and see. I typed in the make and model of the 4x4, and I
Right.
said, "How do I put the belt back on?" And you believe it, somebody in Canada had recorded it and said, "So let me show
Wow.
you how to put the
Uh,
belt on."
right.
5 minutes later, he had
Back on
taught me
track.
how to put the belt on, and I got
Right.
going again. So it's e-learning can come in many forms,
Mm,
and it doesn't have to be structured. They
right.
do these courses. There can be little things.
Right.
It's a bit like we call it advertorial, don't we, when you advert and doing something, but actually it's something else now. This edutorial. So
Right.
we can educate as we are advertising. We can educate as we are sharing.
Right.
So that I think is going to be more and more coming along.
That's wonderful. So yeah, I mean, I think this is really fun session. I got to learn a lot about what you've been doing, and I've spoken to you in the past as well. So it has been wonderful, uh, you know, talking to you, Per, and thank you so much for being on the show. And yes, I will continue to talk to you soon again.
Thank you, David. It's been lovely to talk to you, and hopefully we can inspire other people to do great content.
Right, absolutely.
Lovely.
We'll do that. Thank you so much, Per.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye
Thanks
bye.
a lot.